Unagi, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am very good. Thank you so much for asking. What is your question, Unagi?
Okay, I want to ask you about how can Riot Games put us as a character into the universe of Frontera, the world of Frontera, and not
Uh-huh.
control the story because we're gonna beat every single boss. How can we progress in the story if we are going to beat every single boss?
You're talking about the League of Legends MMO,
Yeah,
effectively.
yeah. How can they not let the players control the story? Like for example, the war between Ionia and Naxos and the whole Shadow Eyes thing, the Void, the Watchers.
Hmm.
How can you control the players without putting them into losing situation?
Well, first and foremost, there isn't necessarily a rule that says that players can't lose. It's something that the modern day, so modern day Hollywood, modern day video games, love to tell feel good stories. And I actually hate
Mm,
those stories. The stories I love are stories that leave you sad. They leave you broken at the end of it because it wasn't supposed to go this way. It was supposed we were supposed to win, and why didn't we win?
mm.
So first, you could absolutely have losing stories, but more importantly, you have Demacia, you have Noxus, you have Bilgewater. Oh my god, so many. There's so many fucking. You have the Frostback. There's so many different
Pictures.
factions, and if you, if I made the MMO, I would figure out a way to merge all of these factions together, right? So all of
Mm,
the separate factions as they exist right now, find a way to sort of make them into two. So either Noxus versus Demacia, or maybe even bigger, with Noxus just being a part of that.
mm.
Personally, I think most people know Noxus and Demacia, so it almost 100% makes sense if those were the main two factions to play
Like
off
the
of.
Horde and the Alliance.
Yes, effectively, like the Horde and the Alliance. Now, from there, it effectively
Mm,
becomes an eternal war, So,
mm,
yes, we're going to face threats and we're going to face issues. The nice thing about the League of Legends world, the realm of League of Legends, is it's incredibly underdeveloped.
mm.
From just a pure story perspective, every single one of the champions obviously have a very small side story, but the overarching world is still very much, well, unexplored. So it's
Mm.
entirely possible that while, yes, there's this war waging between Noxus and Demacia, and, every other faction seems to be involved in one way or another
Mm.
with this war, there's actually something bigger, something far greater that we've just not yet learned about. So, for example, I don't know what they're called, but
Viego,
Viego,
yeah, the Shadow Isles.
yeah, the Shadow Isles. So
Yeah.
the Shadow Isles is
Mm,
a good example. Viego, Thresh, it's a good example of maybe an initial enemy, right?
mm,
So we have to get the Shadow Isles under control because the darkness there is becoming a real threat.
mm.
And then they could come up with a million different stories. So I don't really think if the story was more fleshed out, that would have been a problem because I understand what your issue is. The issue
Like
with it, yeah,
they
sorry.
have to make this an enemy for the both factions, like the Shadow Isles, the Void, the Watchers,
Yeah.
a big threat to the universe.
Yeah. Now, they could always say, you know what, instead of having these known factions be the threat to the universe, what if we made other threats to the universe? So
Mm,
basically, we turned it into an us versus them. So all of these factions fighting each other, there's actually something much bigger that you've never even seen in League of Legends or in any of our lore. Because the universe is so underdeveloped, they have absolute freedom to basically do whatever they want there. Which is one of the reasons I'm so excited for the story. Granted, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the most knowledgeable on the League of Legends lore. What I know of the League of Legends lore basically comes from the champions and their backstories that I love to read. Obviously, like everyone, I watched Arcane. How fucking good was that?
Awesome.
You know, and I love how much potential the land of Runeterra has.
So do you think it's acceptable to make the players like lose a raid, like get into a raid and actually lose
Yeah. I mean, it's
for
not that the
the
players
progress of
have
the
to,
story?
but the players doesn't have to lose the raid. They could still beat every single boss in the raid, but then have that be a losing condition. So say, for example, you kill a general, but then you realize that killing this general now suddenly means that the Shadow Isles are coming into Demacia and just killing everyone because this general was actually keeping the Shadow Isles at bay. You know, so there are ways to have losing scenarios without it feeling bad, because that's sadly the sort of tightrope that you're on. If players went to the final boss, for example, fought the final boss, and then the final boss sort of went, haha, slap, everyone's dead, everyone's gonna be fucking angry, you know? Like, people are gonna be
Yeah.
legit annoyed at the fact that we just got spanked, and we're dead. Why are we getting gear? You know,
That's why I think like you can't let the player like control the story, because if the player beat every single boss in the game, and if eventually they are fucking gods.
yeah. I mean, I don't think that's. It's going to be interesting. Let me explain. It's going to be very interesting to see the direction that Ghostcrawler and the team take it in, because I get what you're saying, and I think a lot of us are also more cautious now than ever before, especially because, I mean, MMOs is no longer a new genre. And one of the biggest issues in a lot of MMOs is the player eventually turns into quote unquote a god, you know, where the player
Yeah.
basically just can't lose.
Yes.
And especially in a world like Runeterra, where losing is such an integral part of the story, you know. If you're joining Demacia, but you win every single battle, technically Demacia is winning the war, right?
Yeah.
But now you're Noxus and you're also winning every single battle. So is Noxus winning the war? Like, who's losing here? And who's winning? You know, someone has to lose and someone has to win. That's the whole point. So it's going to be interesting to see how Ghostcrawler approaches this.
Thank you so much, Akro.
It's an absolute pleasure. I wish I could go into more detail, but sadly, I've not done nearly enough research on League of Legends
Soon, I
yet.
hope. Soon after the MMO release, I hope.
It's definitely on my list, but after 40k. So right now, 40k's got my fucking heart, dude. That universe is just nuts.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I really